What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Motorfest. So today is indeed Wednesday already, which is kind of insane. We're in the second to last summit until December, which is also going to be season 2, which honestly is crazy. Like, where is time actually going? But for this one, guys, the European Luxury is going to have the Jaguar E-Type Roadster Temptation Edition. Or I guess you could say Jaguar, but regardless though, this car is going to be a darkish green color with basically a double orange stripe going down it. Also, zooming in, you guys can see the orange brake caliper, so it is going to look pretty dang cool, but it is most likely going to be a street tier 1 vehicle, like the regular E-Type in the game. So I would probably say this one is basically going to be another version of that one. I would almost guarantee it's not going to be the best car out there, but hey, it is indeed going to be a new vehicle in platinum, but in gold, we have the coffee and cream tire. Silver, we have 50,000 bucks. And then finally, 50,000 XP in bronze. And then of course guys, the last summit until the Season 2 update is indeed the final battle. It is going to have the Hunt Underglow, which I have to admit, doesn't look all that great. Like, it's basically just some lines there. I would probably say it's not going to be the best platinum reward, and I really do hope we actually see better reward unlocks in the next season. But in gold, we have the Aston Martin Vanquish. Obviously, if you guys do have this car, you also get some money back for it, which I would probably say is going to barely be 100,000 bucks. But in silver, we have ourselves some legendary parts for the Street Tier 2 class, and then in bronze, 5,000 spare parts. And then moving over to the summit here, guys, starting off with the 3 skills. So obviously all 3 of them are going to be slaloms, which means you can basically run any vehicle of your choice with a lovely scorebreaker set, but do keep in mind, obviously, some cars are going to be faster than others. Like, if you actually want to use an Alpha GP, you can most likely chase, like, the highest scores. But the big thing here is all you actually need is going to be a scorebreaker set. That way you can actually get the highest score possible in every single slalom. Now, moving over to the first event here is going to be that Classic Spirit. Now, do keep in mind you will have to pick a vehicle based in the UK. That's going to be like a Bentley, Aston Martin, even Lotus for that matter. But for me, guys, I would definitely recommend the Aston Martin Vanquish. This car not only goes around corners great, it actually is going to be pretty dang fast and does seem like a great car overall, at least being in the Tier 2 class for that matter. Like, this is going to be one of, I guess you could say, like the most competitive classes in the game. So seeing a car like the Aston Martin actually do great really is going to mix up like the overall meta in the near future. And then moving over to the second event is going to be a Street Tier 2 race as well. But for this, guys, you have to run the Bentley Continental, which I have to admit isn't going to be a terrible car, but I would also say many people are most likely going to agree it's not going to be the best either. And I would say if you actually had to pick something else in like an event, for example, the other race you have to use something based in the UK, you can run the Bentley Continental, but the Aston Martin Vanquish is probably going to be better in every single way. And then for the next event is going to be a hypercar race. So for this one, you will have to use the lovely McLaren F1. Luckily, guys, if you haven't driven this car that much since like the Crew 2, this thing is much better now. I would actually say it's probably not even going to be close to the old version of it, at least back on that game. But for this event, guys, the big thing here is to most likely be careful around the corners. I did notice you can adjust the car a bit with like the pro settings, but even then you can still spin out around certain corners, so I would recommend having like a steady throttle through them. That way you actually get around the corners as fast as possible. And now for the next 2 events here, the well-rounded lines and the collector mood, you will have to use the Jaguar E-Type. Now I would say this car is probably not going to be a shockingly good vehicle to many. For one, it is going to be a tier 1, so the max speed on it's maybe like 190, so you're obviously not going to be breaking any records with it. Also, if you guys are running manual, I would recommend being careful with this vehicle. It is a 4-speed, so if you're not used to running them, you can easily like over rev them. If you are wondering what I mean by that, you can basically shift too early. So let's say the car might redline at like 6,000 RPM. When you're maxing and you're bouncing off the rev limiter, sometimes you can't shift, but the car can actually go like an extra 10 to 15 miles an hour, which of course in turn is going to make you lose a lot of speed. And then moving over to the last event here is going to be another hypercar race. For this though, you can actually pick a vehicle based in the UK like the tier 2 event before. For this guys, you can pick like a P1 or even like a Lotus. For me though, I once again actually picked the F1, which I have to admit, I really thought this car wasn't going to be all that great, but my goodness, I would definitely recommend trying out the F1 on this one. Is it going to be like the best car? I wouldn't say it's the best car, at least for this event, but for this event though, I would definitely recommend passing the AI as quickly as possible. And also guys, do not be afraid to cut some of the corners to cut down the overall time in this event. But that will basically do it for this summit though. If you guys have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insight.